Welcome to Dear Tay, You Got This. This podcast is a weekly motivational love letter to those who are looking for a change, are currently going through a change, and they need just a little pick-me-up. Tay is a transformation and spiritual coach and author who understands that one small habit over 1 year can create a lifetime of growth. First, we will talk about our topic, and at the end of each episode, I will do a trinity. The trinity is a brag, gratitude, and desire. If you'd like to share your wins, questions, and trinity, please call or text 330-552-7234 to be featured on the podcast. I love hearing about your success and how you are transforming. To learn more about your host, visit her Instagram page, Phoenix of Change. In 2022, I decided that I wanted to be more consistent in my business. And one of the ways that I thought to do that was to grow my TikTok following. Now, at the time, I was making videos, but I didn't feel like they were reaching the audience that I was looking for. So what did I do? I needed to have a catch. So my catch was doing sock videos. And basically what that means is I got on TikTok every morning. I uploaded a video saying, hey, these are my socks for the day, my motivational speech, and then showed everyone my socks. Surprisingly enough, I ended up having over 230 plus pair of socks. And trust me, the collection is still extensive. Now, the 230 pairs grows every single day, every single week, every single month. But I can tell you that one of the places that I ended up getting socks from was Chakra Wonders. When I went on their website, not only did I see that they had socks, but I also saw that they had artwork, mugs, hats, and even some books. It is such a great place to go to, especially if you're looking for something that is going to... What I love about Chakra Wonders is that it's an organization that provides products and accessories to those interested in astrology, metaphysics, and self-healing practices. Their mission is to build a resort-style facility structured around modern and advanced holistic and naturopathic therapies for physical and spiritual healing. When you make a purchase, you are helping them build a holistic sanctuary for wellness and renewal. Go to chakrawonders.com and use coupon code DEARTAY to receive 15% off your purchase. That is chakrawonders.com. Chakra Wonders is an organization that provides products and accessories to those interested in astrology, metaphysics, and self-healing practices. Their mission is to build a resort-style facility structured around modern and advanced holistic and naturopathic therapies for physical and spiritual healing. When you make a purchase, you are helping them build a holistic sanctuary for wellness and renewal. Go to chakrawonders.com and use coupon code DEARTAY to receive 15% off your purchase. That's CHAKRAWONDERS.com. Good morning, everyone. I am so excited to be here as always. It's funny because every time I go into recording, I'm like, I feel like I've been procrastinating, which very well may have been the case. But I'm trying to figure out how to get my podcast ideas out there, what I want to talk about, whether or not I need to outline. Like there's this whole, I know that a few episodes ago, I talked about perfection and what that looks like. And it really does look like, in my case, it looks like procrastination because I want things to be perfect. But then also in the back of my mind, I'm like, does it really need to be perfect right now? You know, you learn as you go. And as I'm realizing this, I always think about like, okay, let's go ahead and just put the episode out there. As you guys know, my episodes are going to be anywhere between 30 and 45 minutes, maybe even longer, depending on if I'm talking to a guest or if I have a lot to say about a certain topic. So for me, it's always hard to think about what it is I'm going to do. And most of the time, I don't have an outline. And I really just like get in my own head about it. And then I'm like, oh, all the editing and all of this and da 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 da. And I listened to a podcast called The Kathy Heller Show, which used to be, actually, it's not even that anymore. It's like Abundance. Let me actually go ahead and look it up. Abundant Ever After, which at the beginning used to be Don't Keep Your Day Job. And then it went to the Kathy Heller Show, and then it went to Abundant Ever After. And I just got through listening to one of her episodes, and she was talking to someone who had just started a podcast. And they were talking about how her and her husband literally do this like after they get up, after they go to work and all of this. And what it is she was like, I just started taking episodes and putting them out there and just recording, and then putting them up without editing. She was like, because it was so stressful. And I have to tell you that honestly, in my brain, getting ready to record, thinking about editing, what needs to go in it, things like that is kind of stressful for me. So I'm really just like, not only am I learning as I go, but I'm also just really trying to understand what it is that I need for each of my podcast episodes. And sometimes that puts me to a state of overwhelm and then I don't do anything. So if you ever wonder what's going on behind the scenes, it would be that. So today I'm going to say that you're probably going to hear some pauses, and that's because I believe that over the weekend, after being in the rain camping with my partner, I got a little cold or something, and my nose is not acting accordingly. So if there's like a kind of a lull or anything like that, it's because I've stopped to blow my nose. So excuse me. But today I wanted to go ahead and talk about something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while. And it's this idea that going through your healing journey is going to be all sunshine and roses. And I think that most of you already know that that's not the case at all. There are steps into this that people take and they don't realize how much of a deep dive it usually can go. And for my experience, there are so many, so many lessons that I've learned over the last year and a half, that I can't all put into like one set of rules, because that's 18 months of information. But as I started writing my book, one of the things that I did was I went ahead and took down some notes, just, some basic things that I felt that some people don't talk about when they're going through their healing journey, or when they're going through a change, or when they're changing a habit, or when they're transforming from one person into the next. There's some things that people don't talk about. And in all honesty, I struggled with these when I first started going through this change of not drinking alcohol and waking up early and getting my business together. I started to really fall into this space where I had no idea. Like I felt so by myself and I felt so like nobody knew what I was doing or going through. And luckily for me, my NET therapist knew exactly what I was going through, which helped me immensely, because I feel like without her, I would have felt like I literally would have felt even more lonely than what I did. Um, and it just goes to show you, like, you never know the journeys that people have gone through and what they're experiencing in their life and how they can actually help you. So that's really, what this podcast is about. And I'm excited to talk about the 5 things that I've learned through my healing journey. And these are not, this is not the complete list. I will say that as I continue to go on through my journey and healing and transformation and change. I will continue to update this list, but I wanted to go ahead and give you my 5 things that I didn't realize that I would be going through this journey. And I wanted to share them with you because I feel like a lot of times we talk about the other side of healing and we don't talk about the dirty, dark side of it, which can be these things that I'm going to tell you today. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So the very first thing that I realized about my healing journey that I feel like no one told me, although I had gone through this before, it had never been quite like this before. I had changed a habit that I had had and that had gotten worse over COVID, and not drinking was my solitude. Um, and one of the things that I realized once I started really changing the way that I think and changing the way that I move through life was that you will get lonely. Um, and I didn't quite know what that meant in real life. I did not know what that meant at all. I honestly just thought that it was going to be like peaches and cream in real life. I thought that I was going to like start this healing journey and people were going to be behind me and people were going to, understand, and I was going to be able to tell people and people were going to be happy for me and all of this. And in real life, the actuality was, and I'm going to say it's not that people weren't happy for me because I still have my support system who are super happy about the changes that I've gone through and are very supportive of the things that I'm doing in my life. But man, did it get lonely. Like I remember there was a time like at the beginning of this, I had stopped drinking. It had been a few months and I had decided that I was going to end relationships with a lot of people because of just how I was being treated or how I felt I was being treated after my mind was clear. And I got out of a relationship and I remember feeling so alone. And within that, I also felt like I was talking to some people about my journey of like not drinking. And some people were like, yo, like that's awesome. I could not do that. I tried it for 90 days. It didn't work. This, that, and the other, blah, 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 blah. Right. And I would go to my NET therapist at the beginning and I was talking to her about everything and I felt like things were going okay. But then there became a point where I felt like literally no one understood what I was going through. Like I literally felt lonely. And I don't mean like I was by myself lonely. I meant like when I was with other people, I felt alone. When I was out and about, I felt alone. I felt like I was the only person going through this change. And it was honestly the most daunting thing because usually when you sit back and you think about change and transformation and things like that, and you're like going through um your things and you're going through your situation and you're changing things about it and you see that other people aren't changing with you, that can be a really lonely space because you start to think about whether or not you're doing the right thing or not. Like, am I actually in the right space? Am I doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing in my particular life? Like we have these set notions of what we want to do in our lives, and a lot of people just go forward with them and don't worry about what other people think. But there are times when you're the only person doing it. Like you're looking around and everybody is still doing the same things that they were doing 2 months ago, 5 months ago, a year and a half ago. And you're starting to change things and you're starting to see changes in your life. And you're like, am I doing something wrong? Should I also be not doing anything or changing things for the better? And that space can get really freaking lonely. So I remember talking to my NET therapist about it and just being like, I feel like people don't understand what I'm going through. Like none of my friends know what it's like to stop drinking or to stop this particular habit that has kept me locked in a cage basically for so many years. Um, And in reality, that's not the case. It's just that they haven't gone through that specific change. Like there are some other people who have gone through a different change that have elicited the same results, but it just wasn't drinking, or they never drank and had some other vice. Um, and I remember her telling me that what she would do is she would just relate to me and tell me about how when she was going through her journey and she was going through her shaman and talking with her shaman, she felt the same exact way. And she was like, it's interesting because yes, you're going to feel lonely. She was like, but you're going to find people on your path who are going to be able to tell you what they went through, and you're going to be able to relate to that and connect to that. And it was interesting because with her and her journey, it was so nice to hear like that my journey is like kind of similar to hers. And I say kinda because she also went through a stint of not drinking. So she was definitely relatable. And she was like, "Yeah, no, I completely understand that. Like I stopped drinking and things kind of just changed, and things got lonely." And I was like, "Okay, that's cool. That's good to know." Um but it's also good to know these things because when you're listening to podcasts, when you're going to your therapist, when you're listening to your counselor, when you're talking with other people who have been going through changes as well, they're going to be able to relate to the loneliness that you feel. And it's almost like feeling alone in a room full of people. Somebody is going to understand you, but they're not going to understand exactly what you're going through. And that does happen. My best friends could not understand what exactly I was going through. They knew my path, they supported me on my path, but they couldn't get in there with me and tell me that I was on the right path because they had not been through the same thing. So having my NET therapist tell me like, yes, no, 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 like being lonely is a thing, like because you have to re-find yourself. And that's what you're doing. You're re-finding yourself when you're going through these changes and trying to figure out what it is that you want with your life. Like you're re-finding yourself. And that process can be super lonely because you feel like you're not doing it right, or people don't understand you, or people who you thought supported you really don't. And it gets really hard a little bit to sit back and think about how lonely you get. But I promise you that stage does pass. Now, what I will, my little caveat is these, I made up these things, these five rules, if you will, these five things that you need to look out for when you're healing. I made these up like at my 1 year mark. And a year and a half in now, I can see that there are some times where I'm still pretty lonely. Like I feel like I'm the only one doing the things. And that is not true. But what is true is that because I have my blinders on, because I'm in my own lane, because I'm doing the things in my life that are going to transform what I'm doing, it feels like I'm the only one doing these things. Now, on the path, do I find people who are? Absolutely. And do I talk to them about that? Absolutely. Um, and you're going to find that in your journey. But understand that no, people are not going through the same journey, but somebody has went through a similar journey. And you're going to find those people on the way. But you do have to get through this bout of loneliness when you're starting to relearn who you are. You're starting to relearn your habits, um, your the things that you enjoy, things like that. It's going to be lonely. So I want you to be prepared for that aspect of it. Now, for the number two thing that I was not ready for was that the people in your life will leave or you will let them go. Now, as much as I talk about at the beginning of my journey of not drinking, that after 3 months, I was like, yep, nope, check that, knock this person off. Nope, we're not doing that, but whatever it was, right? As much as I talk about that, I was not prepared to do any of that. And I just wasn't. I was very content in the life that I had and the relationships that I had created, not only platonic, but also romantic. And I was very much in those situations. I was very much in those relationships. And the one thing that I did not think was that I was going to start falling back from the old activities that I used to do or falling back from the people that I actually hung out with on a consistent basis. And it was really interesting to find out, like to find which people those were. So of course I stopped drinking. I still hung out with my friends that drank. I still went to the bar. Um, I had people doubting the fact that I could go to a bar and not drink. Like in real life, any habit that you are trying to change just takes commitment. And if you fuck up, you can always go, we'll try this again tomorrow. And if for whatever reason you feel like you can't particularly like hone in and complete that particular habit or like change that particular habit, you can always change the habit. Um, which I think that a lot of people don't understand. Like you want to stop smoking, but you always find yourself that you go back to smoking. Okay, let's find something else that you can change and then we can circle back. Um, and I think that was the thing. Like I stopped drinking, but I was still going out to bars. I wasn't ordering drinks. I was ordering club soda and lime, make myself look fancy. And what I started to notice was like the way that people acted around me when they would drink. Whether it was, teasing me about the fact that I don't drink, or whether it was offering me a drink even though they knew that I didn't drink. Whether it was them getting super drunk and being belligerent, or somebody getting drunk and saying something offhand to me. I started to realize these things. And there was a lot of things within that process that I did not like. I didn't like that people got drunk and started teasing me about whatever it was. It didn't have to be about the not drinking. It could have been about anything. And it wasn't that I was being sensitive. It really was like I was thinking about whether or not this was malicious, or whether they really felt this way, or whether they were actually joking, like, and didn't mean what they were saying. Um, but just like the old saying goes, a lot of truth is said in jest. And I started to realize like some of the things that people were saying to me, I didn't like. Some of the things that people were saying to other people while they were doing these things, I didn't like. So I started to fall back on the people that I was talking to. I started falling. I fell so bad. I fell back so hard. That I was just talking to a friend yesterday and I was like, I'm pretty sure that I don't get on social media that often anymore. And I was like, and I'm pretty sure that people don't know if I'm alive or not. I said, because I've fallen all the way back. And I was like, I was telling somebody else, like, when it comes down to relationships and friendships and stuff like that, it's like, what is it that I'm actually looking for in these friendships? Like, what is it that I want? Um, and it really has to do with companionship, and being able to have like interests and be able to go do things and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's like, at what cost am I doing that for people, whether, that I probably really don't like, or people who treat me a certain way and I don't appreciate, or people who I feel like are annoying? Like, do I want to continue to keep these people in my life? And there was one point within all of this that I was like actually like sitting back and thinking about the people that I wanted in my circle and the people that I wanted to talk to every day. Like I tell people, I've probably talked to the same 5 people just about every day. Um, Not including my coworkers, not including family. Like I probably talk to the same 5 people. And sometimes it's short, sometimes it's not. But what I tell people is that like my circle has gotten so small, and it's because I started to let people go. And then not only that, but because I changed, the people who were around me at that time were like, oh, I'm good. And they stopped calling, they stopped coming around, they stopped, inviting me to parties, like things like that. And I think about, I can't remember, I know I was talking to a friend. We were talking about our friendships and people that we hang out with and people we used to hang out with and things like that. And a friend of mine sent me a TikTok, or maybe it was an Instagram reel, one of those social media things. And it was talking about how friendships are formed. And they were talking about most of the time it's because you are in the same area or environment, um, and that you and that you are within proximity of these people, and that is what creates the friendships. So when you are out of that proximity, again, let's go ahead and say, as coworkers, you become really good friends with a coworker. I became really good friends with a coworker that I used to work with at my other job. She was the work wife, and after I left that job, we had stopped talking for other reasons. But after I left that job, the talking with her kind of went down. Just like with um, people that I used to work with at my other job. We used to go out to eat once a month, hang out, catch up, whatever. And that fell off after a little while. And what it really talks about is when it comes down to it, friendships and relationships are effort. And unless you're willing to put in that effort with the other person or with the other people, that stuff doesn't last very long. It just doesn't last very long. And that's okay. I think that a lot of times we get into this place where we feel like it's not okay for us to fall into these spaces where we don't want to hang out with certain people or whatever it is. And you need to know that it's okay. It's okay that people fall out of your life. It's okay that you stop talking to people for whatever reason. And in real life, that's what's supposed to happen because we grow. And some people don't grow with you. Some people do grow with you. Um, and sometimes it just really makes it so that the people that you used to hang out with no longer hang out with you because you're on a different path. It just so happens that you stop hanging out with somebody else because of how you realize how they make you feel, and things like that. And not all the time. I do go back to some situations and I'm like, okay, maybe I was the problem. Um, but then there are some situations where I'm like, no, this person actually didn't say anything about this. It just came out of nowhere all of a sudden with the kind of relationship that I had with this person. I have a really good example of this. I used to have a friend who we were kicking it really hard. And one of the reasons we became friends was through the network marketing company that we were working with, and we were kicking it really hard for like a couple of years. We got our Reiki master certification together and like all kinds of wonderfulness, right? Um, and I remember um after there I went over to her house one time, and then like afterwards, like I didn't hear from her for a while, and then like I tried to get to hang out with her, and then like she was like kind of blowing me off. And I remember contacting her and I was like, what is going on? Like, I haven't talked to you, I haven't whatever. And she went off in text message about how she just couldn't be my friend anymore and how she couldn't understand how I treated her this way and da 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 da. And I was like, what did I do? And she was like, well, we were talking one day and you pulled out your cell phone like you wanted to escape the conversation. And I was just like, really? And she's well within her right, just like anybody else is well within their right to not be friends with you anymore, to not want to talk to you anymore. They are. Um, But in this particular situation, I had no idea what she was talking about. She waited months, and I mean months. This happened like in the summer. She waited until like close to Thanksgiving to tell me that this thing bothered her. And by that time, I didn't even remember what the conversation was, what was going on that day, whether or not I actually looked at my phone. Sure, that probably was a thing, but who doesn't? Like it was one of those things. And like it was funny to me because at the time I really made a conscious effort not to be on my phone um as much. So I thought it was really interesting that this was the reason. And again, people don't need a reason. They can just stop talking to you. They don't have to give you a reason. Um However, I remember in this particular setting being like, I have no idea what the heck she's talking about or why this bothered her, particularly in this situation, because it's not like this hadn't happened before. So it was very interesting. And I know that some of you guys in the audience are like, yeah, that happened to me, or yeah, I've done that to somebody and they, reacted that way and things like that. And it's one of those things where, like, yes, I do. I sit back, I reflect on the things that I've done, on the things that I've said, on how I make people feel when things are happening. Um, but at the same time, like in this particular situation, I don't know what was going on, but what I do understand is for whatever reason, she no longer needed me in her life, and that's fine. Was it a sad time? Absolutely, because I thought we were better than that. I thought we were really good friends. I thought that, you know, um, something like that, something as small like that to me, something like that situation, um, could have been remedied had we had a conversation. So I want you to just understand that no matter what it is, no matter the reason, um, people are going to leave out of your life and you are going to let people go that you have been friends with for years, 15, 20 years, 3 months, whatever. Like you're going to let people go and that's okay. So I just want you to be prepared for that. So the third thing on the list is there will be a soul death and it'll be more harsh than you think. So first we have to go back and talk about what a soul death is. So many years ago, I had started a coaching program, because I wanted to scale my business and do all these things, right? And during that time, it was an online program. We did have like online coaching calls and things like that, but she also had like a full program, a full-blown program that you would just go in and, you know, listen to videos and things like that. And in one of the videos, she actually talked about a soul death. And at the time, I didn't really understand what she meant. I did not understand what she meant at all. And then what ended up happening was I stopped drinking. 1 month went by, 2 months went by. I was still dealing with, the things that I was dealing with inside of the relationship that I was in. And at that time, I was just like, I remember at the beginning of March being like, something's got to give. Like, this is absolutely ridiculous. Like, I don't understand these things. And it wasn't just this particular relationship, it was my other relationships too. And I was just like, things are not the same. They aren't. Like, I was starting to see like things really weren't what I thought they were. Um, when it came to like time or the things that I wanted or, the things that they wanted and things like that, like things just did not align. And I remember at the beginning of March being like, something's got to give. And I went to Vegas with my friends. And for the first 3 days, we had fun. And then for the last 2 days that I was there, I was just like basically contemplating my life. And it was with everyone. It wasn't just one romantic partner. It was romantic partners. It was friends. It was everything. Um, and I remember I came back home and a couple of things went down when I came back home that really solidified, like, I needed to change my circle. I needed to change the relationships that I was in, because over the last couple of months, I had been really looking at the things that I needed to do as a partner and change those things. And although I was changing those things, everything else stayed the same. So it was like, okay, now I need to do something else. So I came back, a whole bunch of different cards fell, and I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. And I ended one relationship. I stopped talking to another person. I like all kinds of things. Like I literally just was like, nope, I'm done. And I was still with one of my partners, and I told him, I was like, I'm going to let you know this now. I said, I'm in a space where I cannot give any longer. I'm tired of giving. I'm tired of giving and not being filled up myself. And I was like, and I'm not saying that you are not giving to me. What I'm saying is I am giving so much of myself that I feel depleted. And the only way I could explain it was I had the cup that I was pouring from, and I was filling my own cup at that time. I was the one putting into that cup. But then every single time I would give out to other people, my cup wasn't being filled up fast enough by the stuff that I was doing for myself. And I know that some of you guys may be able to understand that, but I was giving so much that I was not able to completely fill my cup again as I was giving. And I was just exhausted. I was emotionally exhausted. I was tired. I was so very tired. And I journaled about this at this point, I had been journaling every day, just about up to this point. And after I realized like I could not give anymore, I stopped journaling as often. I think I went down to like maybe a couple times a week. And sometimes maybe it was like 5 days. Maybe it was 2 days, 1 week. Maybe it was, one day, 1 week. Maybe I didn't journal at all. Um, but it got to the point where I felt like giving to other people in any capacity, whether romantic or platonic, got so tiring. And it's funny because when I talked to other people about it and things like that, they were like, oh, yeah, like somebody told me that I was like, the emotion that was related to this was despair. And despair, if you look it up, is a form of hopelessness. And it really was. I felt so hopeless. I was possibly depressed. And that's not, I didn't go anywhere for them to tell me that, but now that I'm thinking about it back, every time I think about it back, I'm like, yeah, I was probably depressed. I was depressed for a good couple of months. And then later I realized that the reason I felt the way that I felt was because I didn't want to give, I felt like I would be giving this person's love away, even though I knew that I needed to end that relationship, even though I knew that it was not working out for either of us. We weren't talking to each other about what was going on. Um, and I knew that I just couldn't keep going. Um, I realized later that it was a lot. I was depressed. I still love this person. I still wanted them in my life, but also I didn't like the way they made me feel. I didn't like the fact that we didn't have conversations. I didn't like the fact that they felt like they had to put a show on for me. Like there were so many things, but then when it came down to giving to other people, I felt like I was not able to show anyone else love because nobody else was pouring into my cup. And I was talking to somebody about that. And they were like, well, why don't you use other people's love and, their cup to fill yours? And I was like, that's the thing. I said, I have two cups. I have my cup and I have their cup. And I was like, the issue is I'm not taking their cup and pouring it into my cup because I felt like I needed to really learn to love myself and learn to fill my own cup and still be able to give to others instead of having other people's cup fill mine. And it was this really strange concept at the time for me. Like, why do I need other people's, of course you need other people's love and companionship and things like that to help fill your cup. But like, why does it have to be the case all the time was really where my brain was. And this really caused this soul death for me. It caused this place where I had to sit and think. I had to sit back and think about who I was, who I wanted to be, who I was presenting myself as, how I wanted to move forward. Like the soul death is really like taking your whole being and recreating it and really not understanding why these things are happening. And this actually went on for months. Like I don't think I realized until later that it was like 2 months. Um, Anybody who knows me will know that music is my life. I love music. I'm an emotional person, so is my emotions. And I didn't listen to music for like 2 months. I didn't even realize until I like in June. I had started listening to music again. And when I went back to listening to music, it was Britney Spears, Fall Out Boy, Paramore, like the things that really made me feel good. I even put some Eminem in there because, like, I was still angry. But it was like really getting back to the roots of what I love and the music that I enjoy. And it was really funny because once I realized, I was like, oh. And I was like, yeah, I was like, I really did not want to feel like, and music makes me feel, and I didn't want to do that. So I literally didn't listen to music. I don't even think I listened to podcasts. Like, I think for those 2 months, I really just vegged. Like, I just couldn't. I couldn't. Um, and there were moments where I cried. There were moments where I went to work and I cried. There were moments where I was at work eating lunch, watching a show, and all of a sudden emotions came up and I was like, where are these coming from? And I went into the conference room, closed the door, and I cried. And it was just, I felt like I was losing myself. But in reality, what was happening was I was killing off this portion of me that I had created that I was no longer happy with. I was no longer happy with how I was presenting myself, how I was being treated in relationships, friendships as well. And I was just like, I need to do something about this. And it took a couple of months before I actually did something, but I didn't realize when this coach was telling me about this years before, I didn't think that this was going to be like this harsh. I was like, oh, this is awful. This is terrible. Um, so yeah, so it was very interesting. So I want you to just realize that if you go through a soul death, you will know it for sure. Um, know that you will get past it. Know that you do have people to talk to. Whether it be a professional or a friend or someone, they may not be able to understand it, but it's always nice to have that person to be able to talk to about it. Luckily, my partner at the time was very receptive, and understood that I could only give so much, which wasn't a whole lot at the time. And it's nice to know that you can still have people out there like that. And I think at the time, it's funny, besides my NET therapist and my actual, no, my therapist there had been a situation with my actual therapist. And I was not even talking to her at the time. So I actually had to deal with this on my own, seeing my NET therapist once a month and my partner, seeing him every once in a while, throughout this process. And talking to my friends and, you know, kind of trying to explain like what was happening. Of course, I didn't know until later what it was, but it was still one of those things where I was like, this is a lot harsher than I thought it was going to be. And I want you to know that sometimes you get into these places where it's going to be a lot tougher. So I just want you to, this is just me helping you be prepared. Oh, so number 4 is basically just a reminder that you can only heal yourself. And I say that because people who are going through changes and decided that they're going to go on this journey have already decided that they want to make a change. They have already decided that something has got to give. They can no longer go through the same things that they were going through before. Like there are people realize this when they're going through this journey. And one of the things that I realized was that as I was going through this journey, I would see people who were on the same path, or who were going through situations that they could definitely change, but they were choosing not to for whatever reason. And it might have just been a timing thing. And I remember talking to my NET therapist about a lot of the situations that were going on over the year. And I was just like, I don't understand why people don't change the things. Um, and she was just like, Tay, she was like, people go through things because they have to, and whether they change them or not is up to them. She was like, I was going through a situation that was very similar to, I believe it was a family member that she had. And she was like, I had already went through this thing, or I was going through this thing, and my friend or my family member was going through this thing, and they were talking to me about it. And she was like, and I was like, oh yeah, like you could do this, you could do that, like giving them suggestions. They were coming up with, solutions, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, and this person stayed in this situation. And she was like, and I also was like, I don't understand why you come to me with these, with the things. You want to know how to get out of it, you want to do this, you want to do that, and at the end of the day you don't change anything. What is that about? And she was like, at the end of the day, she was like, you can only heal yourself. She said the issue is we start to heal and we start to see how good it feels to be moving through life different, to get the things that we want, to manifest, to all of these things. We see, because in our own lives, we see how these things are changing who we are. And we want everybody around us to be experiencing the same thing. She was like, but the reality is we can only take care of ourselves. We can only sit back and watch other people go through their journey, because we cannot force them to heal. We cannot force them to change their situation. And I was just like, ugh, but it's so hard. And she was like, yes. She was like, I know. She said, in times like this, she said, sometimes when it came down to things like that, she said, I had to let people go. I had to walk away and let them deal with their own shit. She was like, because I knew that I couldn't help them, and I knew that I was going to be expending energy to trying to help them, and they weren't going to change. And I was just like, ugh, all right. So for me, I had to learn from, doing the healing myself and going through this process, that yes, I had to, unfortunately, I could not do anything. I had to heal on my own. I could not force anybody else to go through the same situations or the same healing process that I was. I could not force somebody to change the way that they thought about life. I could not force the way that somebody decided to handle a situation. I could only be there for them, talk to them, listen, give advice if needed, whatever. But I wasn't going to be able to change what that outcome was. I wasn't going to be able to do it because they weren't ready for that, or they weren't going to listen, or, right? And I had to learn that you can only heal yourself. And it sucks to say that, but when I say that, it really is in the sense of, yes, you can go to therapists. Yes, if you're taking medications, take your medications. Yes, if you're going to a spiritualist to help you heal, do that. But as you are seeing other people going through similar situations, you can only give them the advice of what you've done, but you can't force them to go do it. It's really like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. The drinking part is the healing, is actually doing the work, is the commitment to yourself, is the self-care, is the self-love, but you cannot make somebody else do that. You can only show them what you're doing. You can show them the tools. You can give them the book. You can give them the audios. You can give them the podcast, but it's their job to listen. It's their job to read. It's their job to take action. So when you're going through this journey, I want you to be reminded that everybody else around you is going through their own shit, but it is not your job to heal everyone. It is your job to heal yourself. It is your job to, once you have gotten to that space of healing and you're continuously healing, to spread that to other people, give them the knowledge, and let them take it and do what they want. It's not your job to make them take action. And that's the one thing that I realized when it came down to it. Like, I had to be the one I had to realize that for myself. I had to realize that. Now, the last thing, the fifth thing on the list is the amount of patience that you have to have is more than you ever thought that you would need. I will say this. Patience is the hardest thing for me. Because in real life, I can tell you that I have been working on patience for the last year and a half. And sometimes my patience is thin. And sometimes, and even doing this podcast, I have to realize that I have to go back to my things that I've realized. I can't change other people. I can't make them go through the healing. I can't do this. So I have to sit and I have to wait. And the waiting part for everyone is the worst. Like, it is the worst. Nobody likes to sit and wait. Like, what is that? What does that mean? What do you mean? We are living in a culture, in a society where instant gratification is a thing. Like, we are hungry, we go to a fast food place, we get our food within 5 minutes and we're eating. If we're hungry and we don't want to wait more than a half an hour, do not go to a sit-down restaurant, because that's not going to be the instant gratification that you need. I'm hungry now, so I'm going to go get me a bag of chips to tide me over. Instant gratification. But you also have that in other things too. You play video games, you know, you beat a level, you get a score, and that's that instant gratification. You get a trophy and you're like, yes, I accomplished something. And are these things good in a sense? Yes, they're good because it shows you that you're making progress. But the reality of the situation is I could not go through my healing journey. I could not stop drinking and think, okay, this is going to be the easiest thing ever. And then the next day, feel all of the effects of not drinking. That wasn't the case. I had to have patience. And that was hard. Like, I am sitting here telling you today, I can't remember what I was listening to. I think it was a podcast episode. And this person was talking about how they had stopped drinking, but they were like, I had to remind myself every day not to drink. It wasn't just a stop drinking and like that was it. It was really I stopped drinking and today some shit went down and I want to go drink, but I have to literally tell myself like, no, you can't go drink because you're not drinking for the next 90 days. And it's the same thing with patience. Like, I have to sit back. There are so many examples of situations within the last year and a half where I just had to sit back and wait. Over the course of a year and a half, I started my fourth journal at the beginning of a few months ago. I started a new journal. And it's my fourth journal, my fourth consecutive journal in a year and a half. I had been journaling before when I was in college and things like that. And I had always like picked up a new journal and started a new journal. So if you go into my journal entries, if you go into my previous journals, you'll see like 7/24/2012, 8/24/2012. And then like in another journal, you'll see like September 20th of 2012. And then like you'll go back to the other journal and it'll be like 1/1/23. Like, I have had this relationship with journaling that I enjoy. But this was the first time that I had actually journaled on a consistent basis. And after my breakup in March of 2023, I was writing letters to this ex-partner. And I was just basically talking about all of the things, like everything that I wanted to say, the anger, the happiness, the everything, like all of the emotions. Okay. I was writing about them. I was writing them down. Again, during this breakup, I didn't write as often, but like I was writing letters. Like, I was angry, so I would spew off a hate letter. Like, I was happy or feeling sentimental, and I would write down a memory, and talk about the good times and things like that. And there were so many times that I had wrote, like, I wish that I could talk to you about this. I wish that we could have this conversation. And I never sent it. I never called. I never anything. And it was really over time, it became this thing of like, I just really wanted closure. Now, this wasn't the only situation that happened over the year that I was just like, ugh, I need closure from this. But me writing about it actually helped. But I realized that I had to have patience. Just when I talked about timing, it's not about how fast you can get over something. It really is about the timing of it all. Is it the right time for you to deal with this circumstance, for you to do this, for you to do that? Is it the right time? There's not ever going to be a perfect time to do something. You just have to have patience. It's just like watching, oh, what is that show? Wipeout? I think it's Wipeout, where the people have to go through an obstacle course and they have to wait for just the right time before they go onto the course to pass a level. They have to wait. They have to be patient. They have to watch for just the exact opening. And sometimes it's not just the exact opening. Sometimes it's by the skin of their teeth that they get past the windy thing, or that they, jump across the big red ball thingies, or that they just narrowly missed getting hit in the head with the swinging hammer. Like, it's about patience. And I will tell you, as many times as I wrote, as many times as I did all that, I never reached out because it was never the right time. And then a year after our breakup, a year and 10 days, a year and 8 days after our breakup, came the opportunity for us to have a conversation. And we didn't have a full-on conversation. We didn't talk about everything because there's only so much time. But we got a chance to sit and actually talk. And when I tell you, it relieved my heart at that time. And it made me realize my feelings that I had for her, and where I was at the time and where I was now, and how that can play forward. There was such a relief that afterwards I was like, I think I might be okay to start dating again, because I had put dating off for a while. Now, does that mean that I'm actually doing it at the moment? No. I'm open to it, but I haven't actually started, doing the things to do the dating thing. And that's for a lot of reasons. Obviously, I'm doing this podcast. I'm, building my business. I'm writing a book. I'm doing a lot of things other than working my full-time job. And that doesn't really leave a lot of time for somebody else in my life. It leaves time for dating. It leaves time for like going out on dates and talking to people and things like that. But it does not leave time. It's not, there's another time commitment that goes with that, which is spending time with this person. And I do not have that. Not, at least not the amount of time that most people want or feel like they're entitled to. I don't have that. So for the time being, I kind of just sit back and I'm waiting for the perfect time. I'm being patient with whether or not I want to go back into the dating world and what that looks like, because they have to understand the expectations. They have to understand what it is I'm looking for. They also have to understand the time that I have. But in reality, when it comes down to life and it comes down to the things that you do, it all comes down to patience. Do we have the patience? Can we wait? And I understand that at this time in our lives, we're like, I really don't have the time to wait. I don't, because of XYZ factors. I mean, there's many factors, because I'm too old, because I'm hitting 50, because I'm hitting 60, because I'm getting ready to retire, you know, because the government is in shambles. Like, there are all these reasons on why we want things to move quicker and we want things to progress further. But the reality is that we have to have patience, and the healing journey itself takes a lot of patience. And we just have to be very mindful of that. sometimes I still sit back and I go, I really just want this thing. And I talk to my partner about this all the time. Like, I really want this thing to be over and done with. I want these things to really um be done. I really just want things to be done. Um and at the same time, it's like, I understand that things need to go through their process. I understand that people need to see what they need to see in the time that they need to see it. And that also goes with the healing yourself part, right? I can't make things move faster for this person than they already are. So if I want people to be on my level, if I want my friends to be on my level, if I want to find my tribe, if I want to do the things in life that I really want to do, I have to have patience. Nothing comes overnight. And I think that that's the biggest thing when we're going through transformation and we're going through this journey is we want things to happen overnight. We want our money situation to change overnight. We want our friendships to change overnight. We want to be married tomorrow. We want to have a partnership. We want our business to be making thousands of dollars a month. We want this, but it takes time. It takes patience. And in reality, that is all we need. So I hope that these 5 things have helped you to understand what you need to know about your healing process. Again, this is not a complete list. These are just the 5 things as I was writing my book that I came up with. And no, I didn't add any more to the book. I guess I could probably do that, but I haven't added any more. Those are the 5 main things that I feel people need to know when it comes to their healing journey and before they start. And I hope that they help you as you go through your change, as you go through your transformation, as you go through your growth. Because those are going to be important things to fall back on. Like, yes, I know that this is going to happen. I was told this was going to happen. Let's have patience. I was told that this was going to be a season. Let's get through it. And I hope that this helps you to know that you're not the only person going through these things. You're not the only person looking for a way out of your current situation. You're not the only person. But I think the reality is, yes, things do get better, whether it's in a week, whether it's in a month, whether it's in 3 months, things do get better, but you have to stick with it. You have to stay the course. You have to have that patience to go through. And trust me, life is going to test you because it always does. But I believe that you can make it. So before we leave out of here, I'm going to go ahead and do the Trinity. And remember, the Trinity is something that you want to brag about, something that you are grateful for, and a desire. And remember, you can send those into my podcast. You can call the voicemail only number 330-552-7234 and leave me a voicemail with your Trinity or with your wins or with any questions that you have. And then you can also text that line as well and send over the same thing. Whichever works for you, you're more than welcome to do so. But today, for today's Trinity, as we gear into everything that's going on with life, one of the things that I want to brag about is that although I say this a lot, I just really want to brag on my perseverance and my motivation. I have been on a healing journey for at the better part of 6 years at this point. And I can only commend myself for really sticking with it. Even though there have been times where I've like taken a break, where I've like stopped doing the things for moving forward, where I've done all that. Like there have been those moments. But I feel like the fact that I keep coming back, the fact that I keep pushing forward, really is a testament to the changes that I want in my life, like that I really want to go through these changes. I really want them. And in order to really get them, I really, really, really have to stick with it. And I want to brag about that because I think that that's a great thing. I think that being able to have that perseverance, to be able to have that motivation to keep going, even though I'm only seeing, incremental changes. That's not always the case. Sometimes there's big changes, but a lot of the times there's small changes. And I want to brag on that because I feel like that's something to be celebrated. Something that I am grateful for today as I record this is an extra day off this week. Although I will feel some type of way next week when we have to do a whole 5-day work week. But I am so grateful for the holiday coming up and having a day to get shit done. Like, I'm grateful for that time. And maybe I won't work the whole day. Maybe I'll just work the morning, but at the same time, I'm so grateful to be able to have that time to be able to do whatever I want. And at this moment, a desire. I think at this moment, going along the lines of like having time off, and I think I might have said this in another one, but I desire a vacation. I think I desire a beach with a towel and an umbrella and a little fruity drink minus alcohol, where I can just go be. It's been a long time. I feel like it's been a while since I've just been able to be, to like go lay on the beach and not do anything or think about anything. And that's a big thing for me right now, especially since it's summer. It's the summer. The summer puts me in this space. So yeah, I desire a vacation where I can go and be on a beach. So we're going to manifest that at some point between now and the end of the summer. Because boy, oh boy, do I need that. And with that, I'm going to sign off. And I hope that you guys have a great rest of your week. And I hope that you all really take to heart those 5 things that I've learned about healing. And I hope that you use those as you go forward in your process, in your healing journey, so that you can understand more what that looks like and how you can flow. And I'm telling you, as long as you have that patience, it's going to be tough, but it'll be more manageable. So I hope that you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys next week. Thank you for listening to Dear Tay, You Got This. If you liked this podcast episode and found it helpful, please subscribe today and share this episode with a friend. If you have any questions, comments, wins, or would like to be featured on this podcast, please call or text 330-552-7234 or email info@desirablephoenix.com. See you next week.